Recording in progress.
Okay, hello. 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 Hello.
Yes, sir.
Student, आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ यूनिट कंपोनेंट्स इन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिस्टम. सो 10 मिनट के बाद मेरे को स्क्रीनशॉट सेंड कर देना, ठीक है कभी?
Sir, your voice is very low. You are not audible.
No issue. Hello.
Sir, your voice is not clear.
Not clear.
So it is very low. It's not audible.
Now. Now. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Where are you now?
No, sir, not. It's the same.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a minute. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
हेलो आवाज क्लियर है ना मेरी
Yes, sir.
हेलो ओके ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स एक मिनट ऑडियो सेटिंग लीव कंप्यूटर ऑडियो हेलो हाँ स्टूडेंट आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे द आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ वेरियस कंपोनेंट्स the screen shot ठीक
With one of the most common, the one that I just picked up there, the resistor. So this is a 1000 ohm resistor. I can tell that from the colour bands on it, and we'll look at that later on, how the colour bands are interpreted. However, the function of a resistor, if I use the water analogy, because the water analogy is very good, if you have a pipe with water flowing through it, and part of that pipe is narrowed down to a section, then that will restrict the flow of water through that pipe. Say, for instance, the main water pipe came into the house. If you put a very thin pipe in line with that, even a fairly short one, then it would really restrict the flow of water coming in, because the water would want to flow through quite quickly, but it would be forced in through this narrow channel, and the resistance posed by that narrow channel would limit the water flow in the same way that a resistor does exactly the same to electricity. It limits the flow of electricity, the flow of current. And in this case, with the water analogy, the pressure of the water equals the voltage. And it's quite interesting that the Chinese sometimes refer to the voltage as pressure, and that's exactly what it is. And the flow of the water equals the current. So the higher the flow, the higher the current. Now, the construction of a resistor is usually, in the case of these ones, this is a carbon film resistor. And you get metal film, carbon film, wire wound, but one of the most common is just carbon film or the metal film. And they have a little ceramic tube, which is coated with either the metallized coating or a carbon coating up to a specific thickness. And the thicker the carbon coating on it and the type of the composition they're putting on it, the more conductive it will be. But then they can fine-tune that. They actually cut a spiral round it, and that creates a long, thin path of the carbon, and that increases the value of the resistance. And once they've done that, they put a metal cap in the end with the leads coming off, and they dip it in a sort of, I suppose it's a lacquer, really. And typically with the carbon film resistors, which are my favourite, they're one of the easiest to read, it'll be this sort of beigey coloured. I'm not sure, what would you call that colour? I've never really thought about that. Beige, let's call it beige. It's sort of rich beige. And the metal film resistors, which I don't like because they're usually blue and they're really hard to read. The blue colour makes the colour bands, makes it easy to mix like colours like orange and brown because they've got such a dark background. But I'll go into those colours afterwards. So that's the function of a resistor. I'm not going to go into it too much at the moment because at the end of the video I'll cover things like Ohm's law, but I don't want to bore the pants off you, so let's move on to capacitors. Oh, I should continue and say about the resistors. The function of a resistor is to limit the current flow. So say, for instance, you had an LED, you wanted an LED to light from a battery. If you connected the LED straight across the battery, it would burn the LED out in most instances. But if you put a resistor in series with the, let's just draw it as a physical LED, and you hook it across the plus 12 volts, and 0 volts, then by choosing the resistor value, you can actually limit the current to the correct value for the LED. They're also used for things like time delays. You might have a resistor charging up a capacitor, you know, it trickles the current into it until the voltage reaches a certain level, and then that could be used as a timing function. And you also get variable resistors where effectively it's a carbon track connected at both ends. You only really need to use it connect at one end, and with a wiper that actually wipes round that track so that, you know, depending on its position, that will vary the resistance. So let's move on to capacitors now, because they're quite interesting. So a capacitor, in its most basic form, is a layer of insulating material with a conductive surface on each side. And the best way to describe a capacitor in the water flow theory is a chamber with a diaphragm in it that stops the water flowing directly through. And that diaphragm can flex a certain amount in either direction. So if, say for instance, you connect it across a battery, the positive charge would flow in at this side and it would cause it to flex over to the negative side. It doesn't actually physically work like this, but this is a good way to describe it. And if you reverse the polarity then, that charge, that amount that had filled up would then be pushed out the other side and it would flex the other way. And this allows, capacitors can be used to basically hold a charge of electricity, or in the case of the AC capacitors, that you often see me using these in my LED lamps, that diaphragm, it means that on the AC, on each half wave when the polarity swaps, that will let through a small amount of energy. The sort of electrons will flow backwards and forwards through it, but not just pass right through like a sort of short circuit. So
अरे भैया बिजनेस में
बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। और आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है वो कंपोनेंट आइडेंटिफिकेशन।
My name is Shoaib Ahmed. I am an engineer and I am from very interesting engineering background that is called electronics and communication engineering, which is very common in India. But in spite of that, students are not aware about physical overview of electronics component. So my tutorial is based on electronics component and its physical overview. So let's see. Move toward the first component, which is very famous and common, and we all study this in a very beginning of engineering first year, electronics and communication. This is called diode. Yeah, as we all know that diode is nothing but it is a switch. It is a blocking current circuit maker. It is used as a rectifier, as clamper, as clipper, and blah. But the main thing is that how it's look. So let's move toward the first type of diode, which is PN junction diode. So how it's look? Friends, this one is PN junction diode. Yes. In market, it is available by name IN4001. As we see there are two colors, black and silver, which is nothing else but identify the polarities, means one is P and one is N. So the black one is P, means P type, and silver one is N type, means anode and cathode. So to identify PN junction, it's very easy. Means the black color represent P type and silver color represent N. So this is called PN junction diode. Let's move toward the next type of diode. It is also very interesting and we heard about in engineering first year in very beginning. This is called Zenel diode. Yes, this one is Zenel diode, which is used in power supply circuit and current breaking circuit, etc. We must review in some next videos. So this one is Zenel diode. In market, it is available by name IN47404786, etc. Let's move toward the next diode. And one more thing, PN junction is also called signal diode. This one called crystal diode. It is crystal clear, pure white.
LED.
LED, which is very common component. LED, it is also a form of diode, means light emitting diode. A diode which emit light, means light energy. So LEDs have two polarities, negative and positive polarity. How to identify? It is very simple. Three techniques to identify polarities in LED. First one is legs. As we see, one leg is smaller, one leg is bigger. The bigger one is positive and smaller one is negative. Next technique, as we see, LED is not round up to 360 degree. See, from there it is flat. So flat one is, means this flat edges, this one flat edges, this is negative polarity and opposite one is positive. Third one, how to identify? As we see, there are two filament inside the LED. One is smaller and one is bigger. So the bigger one is negative and smaller one is connected with positive leg. It is more visible in, I think, color LED. Just, yeah, as we see there are two filaments, one is small, one is big. So big one is negative and small one is positive. Next type of diode, this is very famous. This is photodiode. Identification, it is black in color. It is photodiode. See, used for IR circuit. Photodiode is used with combination of photodiode and IR LED. This one is IR LED. It is white from base, and
IR means infrared.
we are not able to see its radiation from the naked eye, so it is only visible in camera. How it's look, we're gonna see in next tutorial. And I am also tell how this combination work as IR sensor, which is used in smartphones. This combination is really interesting. Move toward next component. So capacitor. In basic, capacitor are of three types. In basics, electrolytic, ceramic, and metallic. So this one is electrolytic capacitor. The main identification, its electrolytic capacitor have polarities, two polarities. So one is negative and second one is positive. As we see, there are negative sign. Oh, sorry.
बेटे कैपेसिटर की एक खास बात बता दूं आपको, जब भी आप कोई सर्किट बनाओगे ना, हेलो, ऑडिबल है ना? हेलो,
Yes, sir.
हाँ, जब भी कोई सर्किट बनाओगे ना, आप मान लो सर्किट में आपकी 12 वोल्ट की इनपुट है, ठीक है? तो कैपेसिटर उसमें 24 वोल्ट का यूज करोगे, ठीक है ना? तो जितनी आप इनपुट वोल्टेज दे रहे हो ना, उससे इनटू ट्वाइस आप कैपेसिटर यूज करोगे वहां पे। ओके, अगर 24 वोल्ट है तो आप 48 वोल्ट का वहां पर यूज करोगे। 48 वोल्ट का अगर नहीं मिल रहा है तो 48 टू 50 वोल्ट तक आप वहां पर यूज करोगे, ठीक है? 250 वोल्टेज यूज करने का मतलब क्या है, क्योंकि कैपेसिटर जो है वो चार्ज और डिस्चार्ज होता है, ठीक है? तो जो आपकी पीक वेव जाएगी, तो उसके लिए आपने जो आपकी वोल्टेज आ रही है ना, इनपुट वोल्टेज कैपेसिटर को तो वो मिल रही है ना आपको, जो वोल्टेज आप दे रहे हो, तो कैपेसिटर उस वोल्टेज पर चार्ज होगा, उस पीक वोल्टेज तक चार्ज नहीं होगा, उस पीक वोल्टेज से चार्ज होगा। जो आपकी पीक वोल्टेज आ रही है आपके पास, उससे चार्ज होगा ऊपर, और फिर वो आपका डिस्चार्ज हो जाएगा विद द हेल्प ऑफ रेजिस्टेंस और विद द हेल्प ऑफ लोड, ठीक है? वो टाइम पर डिपेंड करता है। तो कैपेसिटर में क्या है, आपको हमेशा जितने भी आप वोल्टेज यूज कर रहे हो, उस वोल्टेज से दुगना आपने दुगनी वैल्यू का कैपेसिटर आपने वहां पर लेना है।
So negative sign, it's represent that this leg is negative and opposite leg is positive. These are some electrolytic capacitor. Move toward next type of
Ceramic.
capacitor. This one is ceramic capacitor. It doesn't have polarity. These are ceramic capacitors. Toward next component, which is very
जो वैल्यूज होती है ना, इनके ऊपर लिखी होती है, ठीक है? कितने फेराड का है, ठीक है ना? कितनी वोल्ट पर काम कर रहा है, कितने टेम्परेचर पर काम करेगा।
important and famous called transistor. Transistors are of various type. I'm not introduced all some basic transistors like BC547 and BC548 means NPN and PNP. Like BC547 and 548, it's available by this name in market for PNP and NPN. So as we all know that transistor have three leg: emitter, base, collector. How to identify? Yeah, it is very easy. Just hold the transistor like that, and started count from right hand side. So first one is collector, second one is base, and last one is emitter. And this is NPN transistor. Like it have 5 port, so one port is used as a AC or DC input, second is base, third one is relay input voltage, and the opposite one is output, relay output when it's on, and this is also output when it is off. I'm gonna tell about relay in detail in one of the next tutorial. So let's move toward the next component. It is also very famous. This one is nothing but a crystal oscillator. Yeah, this is oscillator. This is also a type of transistor. This one is trumpet, a variable resistance. And let's move toward the next component. Okay, these are resistor, like it is written, I think 15k means 15 kilo ohm. See the color coding. If it is written by
आप लोगों ने ईटी में भी किया होगा, और अभी भी ये जो सर है इन्होंने दिखाया है आपको, जो रेजिस्टेंस है वो किलो ओम में दिखा रहे हैं। क्यों, ऐसा क्यों है? किलो ओम में क्यों दिखा रहे हैं रेजिस्टेंस? और आपने ईटी में किलो ओम में क्यों रेजिस्टेंस ली है? हेलो, हेलो,
Yes, sir.
ऐसा क्यों यूज कर रहे हो आप? किलो ओम में रेजिस्टेंस क्यों लिए? क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली करंट को, सॉरी, रेजिस्टेंस को अगर ओम में लोगे, इनकी वैल्यू किलो ओम में इसलिए आती है क्योंकि आपको डिजिट ज्यादा वो ना इस पे प्रिंट करनी पड़े उनको, ठीक है? वो किलो ओम में इसलिए लिख देते हैं मोटा मोटे, जैसे 1 किलो ओम लिख दिया। अब 1 किलो ओम लिख दिया तो 1 किलो ओम का मतलब है, 1 किलो ओम का मतलब है अगर उसको 1 ओम में कन्वर्ट करेंगे, ठीक है, तो वो कितना पॉइंट समथिंग हो जाएगा, ठीक है ना? ओके। और दूसरा क्या है, जो करंट देखो ईटी में जो करंट निकाल रहे थे आप, 2.98 किलो ओम रेजिस्टेंस यूज करके, 1.67 किलो ओम रेजिस्टेंस यूज करके, 0.28 किलो ओम रेजिस्टेंस यूज करके जो करंट आ रहा था मिली एम्पियर में आ रहा था आपका, ठीक है ना? तो रेजिस्टेंस की वैल्यू आप किलो मेगा ओम में कर दो तो वो आपका माइक्रो एम्पियर में आ जाएगा, ठीक है?
E,
और कभी भी आप शॉप पर लेने जाओगे रेजिस्टेंस, तो वो किलो ओम की रेटिंग तो पूछेगा ही पूछेगा, वोल्टेज ही पूछेगा आपसे कितने वोल्ट का चाहिए।
means like that. 100E means E is denoted ohm, means 100 ohm. E is denoted ohm in market, means it is 100 ohm resistor. Next component. Don't be confused, this is not a resistor, this is inductor. Yeah, inductor does not, this is inductor. Inductor doesn't allow a sudden change, as we all study in engineering. This one is inductor. Next component. This is LDR, light depending resistor, a type of resistor which is depend on light. Means when the light is on, its resistance goes low, and when the light is off, its resistance goes high. So it is used for switching in number of circuits used for switching by using light. I'm gonna tell you about LDR in depth in one of the next review. So let's move toward the next component. Yes, this one is buzzer. As we see there, positive sign means it is positive, used to create sound in number of circuits. Let's move towards some common ICs, like it is 547, means voltage controller. I'm sorry, this one is 7805, a voltage controller IC. How it's work? It is used to regulate your supply up to regulated 5 volt. How it's work? I'm gonna review in one of the my next video. It is 7805, have 3 legs: input, base and output.
जो आपके ईटी की लैब में रखी हुई है ना, 7405 आईसी रखी हुई है वोल्टेज रेगुलेटर वाली, ठीक है? और
Like input voltage is 9 volt, 12 volt, and output is always 5 because it is 7805. It have all other series like 7809, 7812, etc. It's a voltage controller. This is also very famous IC, a 555 timer, means LM555. It is available in market by name LM555. It's a 555 timer used in timer circuits and
ये जैसे आपको जो शॉप होती है ना, वहाँ से आईसी मिलेगी आपको, इसके साथ एक बेस मिलेगा, ठीक है? आईसी को बेस में लगाएँगे, उस बेस को कनेक्ट करेंगे लैपटॉप से। लैपटॉप में एक सॉफ्टवेयर आएगा, उस वो सॉफ्टवेयर टाइमर आईसी के लिए स्पेशल होगा, ठीक है? तो उस सॉफ्टवेयर में टाइमर आईसी के बारे में पूछा जाएगा, आपकी जो लैंग्वेज है, सी प्लस प्लस लैंग्वेज है, पाइथन है, ठीक है? जैसे आप आर्डिनो बोर्ड पर आप प्रोग्रामिंग करते हो, ठीक है? ऐसे आईसी की एक लैंग्वेज होती है, ठीक है? उस लैंग्वेज में आप लिखोगे टाइमर आईसी को किस तरीके से कितने टाइम पर ऑपरेट कराना है आपने, कितनी-कितनी सेकंड में कितना टाइम प्रोवाइड कराना है, ठीक है? तो टाइमर आईसी आपकी वहाँ पर रीड हो जाएगी और वो प्रोग्राम इस पर राइट हो जाएगा। इसको निकालोगे, सर्किट में लगाओगे, ये उसी प्रोग्राम के अकॉर्डिंग आपकी वर्क करेगी।
some automated circuit. How it's work, I'm gonna review in my one of the video, next video, upcoming video. So this one is power supply, means a battery, a wire, and it is multimeter. And this one is circuit made by me. It is automated water filling detector, a type of sensor circuit which is made by electrolytic capacitor, combination of electrolytic capacitor 7805 IC, and this one is 555 timer, mean LM555 IC. This is 7805 IC. This is resistance, this is LED, and this one is also LED. Ceramic capacitor, electrolytic capacitor.
ठीक है भाई, ये आपका 9th एक्सपेरिमेंट था। इस एक्सपेरिमेंट में मैं आपको जो रिटन मटेरियल है वो मैं आपको कल प्रोवाइड करा दूंगा, ठीक है? जल्दी से जल्दी अपलोड कर दो। डेट शीट आपको मिल गई होगी अपनी?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, सो बी प्रिपेयर। जो आपकी 3rd एंड 4th यूनिट है, उस यूनिट में से आपका आएगा। ओके, चलो मिलते हैं बेटे, कल मिलते हैं। ओके।
Okay.